right, good evening. Oh, you're still standing. My gosh. Okay. You guys can definitely take a seat. Sure. Good evening. Yo. This is looking super lesson-y. I apologize. It's not that intimidating. What a privilege. Yo. I'm looking at all of you guys, and this has been such a good evening already. I don't even think you need me to be up here. Your worship team was like phenomenal. Your anchors were like incredible. David, bro, I didn't need to preach, bro. Like, that was a preach right there. So, tonight is, I don't know if you realize from the worship songs, tonight is very much centered around mental health. And I've been wrapping my brain around how to do this, because it's such an important topic to talk about, because mental health has been really misconstrued in the last few years with all the social media. We have these ideas of what we think social media is. We think what mental health is. And tonight's not going to really be a preach. It's going to include preaching, but it's mainly going to be a teaching. And the reason why I chose that is because I felt on my heart that tonight I want us to go out here and be equipped. I feel like there's this whole thing about being Christian that we feel like we under-equipped for the world. And I feel like we feel sometimes like we have this disadvantage. And we sort of underhanded. So tonight, I think it's important for us to be able to have one step ahead. To be able to know what we're capable of. To know exactly what God has in store for us, and to know that we are enough. So I think the way that I'm going to do it is I want to start with explaining what mental health is, and then I'm going to be doing some lovely drawings. If you can't judge, that would be great. Don't judge. David, keep them accountable, bro. Where are you? Okay. So let me start. So mental health. It's not a classification. It's not a diagnosis. It's a measurement of how well or unwell we see and view the world around us. And that's very important to see. Because normally when people refer to mental health, they're talking about the illnesses, the diagnoses, they're talking about depression, they're talking about anxiety, they're talking about stress. But what mental health really, really is referring to is the health of our mental state. If we don't have the control of our mental state, we're going to lose everything. As Christians, we need to have this in check. If this isn't right, there's nothing we can do. Because we're going to lose sight of where God wants us. We're going to lose sight of where our feet are going. And we're going to be easily manipulated and easily hurt and easily influenced. So tonight, I really want to encourage us. Tonight is a teaching. I really want us to go out here fully armored. I want you to feel like my problems aren't as big as they are, no matter how big they are. And Jenny and Jesua and I were talking about the problems that are faced within the young adults. And there's some that are huge. And every single one of us here can make it out of them. Now, I also want to put a disclaimer. Everything is possible with Jesus. Everything. So what I teach you tonight, the foundation is Jesus. It's always Jesus. So please do not misconstrue me and misunderstand me when I speak about we have this power, we have this strength. Our power is Jesus. We sang about it. His name is power. Mental health is very much about what we think, about how we act, how we feel, and how we interact with others. It's very, very important to know this as we go through this story. It's how we think, how we act, how we feel, and how we interact with others. I was watching, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a YouTube video. There was a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, and he was failing at school, and his reasoning was really weird. He said, school isn't just for me. It's not what I'm good at. I don't belong here. So his mental state was just on failure. The one day he went to school, they had a national benchmark test, which is like an IQ test for their age group. And he went through this test, and the first thing he thought when he finished was he failed. Within 2 weeks later, it came out that he was top 2% in the whole country within his age group. He had a lot of disbelief. He didn't know what to do. He ran to his mom, told his mom, showed his mom. The first thing his mom said was, "Did you cheat?" He didn't cheat. He explained to her he can't cheat on an IQ test. It's based on how smart he is or how unsmart he is. Within 2 weeks or a couple of weeks, I can't remember, his marks increased by 20% from wanting to fail and wanting to drop out of school. He finished with 4 distinctions out of the 7 or 8 subjects that he had. But here's the kicker. So a year later, the people who distributed these IQ tests or national benchmark tests came out with 10 names of people whose results were by mistake swapped. He was one of them. Turned out he was below average, not top 2. Now, there's a lot in that story, and you can take whatever you want from it. But there's 3 things that I want us to focus on in that story. 1, our environment makes us who we are. The people around us determine our future. And who we are and what we do with ourselves affects everything and everyone around us. These 3 areas do affect mental health because they affect our environment, and our people and us affect the way we think, the way we act, the way we feel, and the way we interact with others. See, the way our brains work is we get information in. And we get information in through 5 senses. I'm going to start drawing because I think I don't want to lose myself. Blue or black, you choose. That was very quick. Cool. Okay, so, oh gosh, I'm so bad at drawing. Okay, so this is a hand. Don't judge. Okay. This is supposed to be a hand. Okay. Okay, what's happened to no judging? Okay. This is supposed to be an eye. Oh my gosh, it looks like an egg. Then there's the nose, I think. I'm just going to do that so you know it's a nose. Okay. Then there's obviously taste. Okay, you draw here from the side. I can hear you being like, wow. Yeah, no. Okay. And then there's, how do you draw an ear? Just going to leave that dot out. Okay, so there's these 5 senses. Hold on, is there another side? No, there's not another side. Okay, so there's these 5 senses, and these 5 senses feed information into our brain. Okay? Now, and what I mean by this is it goes from our 5 senses through our body into our brain. Please draw brain. Okay, there we go. It's a brain. Okay, imagine, just be creative. Okay. So it goes from our senses, the information goes from our senses and into our brain, and then it creates this reaction. And this reaction can be anything. So for example, I touch a hot pot. The information goes from my hand into my brain, and the reaction is obviously pain. Now, what's very important is this is how our information is fed into us, okay? And the 3 environments are all play a part in here: our environment, our people, and ourselves. Now, I want us to imagine for a moment that, actually, I'm just going to keep drawing because I'm so good at it. So I want us to imagine that we have these bricks because we need to figure out how does this information really work. Like, are there biases? Are there reasons for happening? Can we influence this information? Can we influence this reaction? And the answer is yes. But let's understand it. Because like I said, remember, we need to keep this in mind. We need to be equipped. So let's know how we work. Let's understand how God made us. So this is how God made us. We have a limited amount of bricks, okay? So there they are, sort of bricks, okay? And we have these two paths in front of us. Can you all see that? No. No one said anything. You guys were just like sitting there. Can you see the horrible drawings up at the top? Okay, that's great. You saw the worst parts. Great. Okay. Is that better? Okay, you can see the blue bricks. All right. So you have these limited amount of bricks. Then you have these two paths, right? And the only way you can put down these bricks is by hearing something, seeing something, somebody doing something, your environment affecting you. That's the only way you can put down the brick. So let's use an example. The boy in the story, when he was in grade 8, he failed his first exam. He saw his first exam. The first thing he thought was, I studied so hard. Why did I get such a bad mark? I must be stupid. He puts a brick down. He shows his friends. His friends are like, oh my gosh, how could you get such a low mark? The exam was easy. You must be stupid, bro. Takes it home to his mother. Did you cheat? Are you stupid? Are you lazy? Do you not understand? Apparently the mic. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. And he put it down. What happens is this information comes through and it sits here. When that information comes here, it sits here and it has to choose between one or two parts. It can't go this one and this one. It can only go one. Which one it's going to go to? It's going to go to the one that has a better chance of traveling along. Now, the opposite is also true. He could totally get a 70% on his next exam. Easily. The information comes in, he's got the 70%, but he gets here. And the information can't go down this path because it's not developed. There's no path. It can only go down this path. So what happens is the result is this was luck. Our thoughts become our actions become our habits, and our habits become the way we think. Creates this huge, horrible repeating cycle. So I have some questions, and this is a little bit of a time of reflection. It's not long, but I just want you to think. If you've got papers down, I really want you to write this down. If you don't stress, just think about it. Because this is trying to relate everything. Remember the three things: your environment, your people, and yourself. Who do we keep around us? Are they encouraging us to be better or worse? Are they encouraging us to stay the same? Now, what about ourselves? Are we constantly encouraging ourselves? Are we continually knocking ourselves down? Do we say things like, I'm lazy, I'm pathetic, I'm worthless, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not smart enough? How are you building your paths? Are you choosing this one? Or are you choosing this one? How are your foundations looking in your life? Now, there's one thing that I want us to remember. It's about the foundations, if we can show it quickly. If you do want to write this down, it's really cool to remember. Like every foundation, it's in place, but it can be broken down. It can be replaced, and you can start again. You're never stuck. There's always something you can do again. But how does this look? So let's read Romans. Does everyone have it down? Does anyone want more time with this? Are you guys okay? Cool. I think we moved on anyway. Okay, so this one on the screen says, do not copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. That's a much better verse than I have. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. In the NIV, it says, do not conform to the patterns of this world. Now, what are the patterns of this world? I can think of two things that really stick out for me and two things that are really annoying for me. The first one is instant gratification. And the second one is striving for perfection. Now, instant gratification comes in sizes and shapes. That isn't me. Oh, it's me. Don't touch the bottom. Okay, my bad. I won't. Oh, sorry. Okay, so it comes in instant messaging. It comes in fast food. It comes in Tinder. And what we're doing is horrible. Because what we're doing is we're creating these structures in our brain that everything needs to be on our time and no one else's time. So we've created these structures in our brain that everything needs to be on our time. Now, striving for perfection. I call it, and I might be copyrighted or maybe sued for this, but I call it the Kim Kardashian trend. And the trend is fake butts, fake boobs, fake face. Because we all strive to change what we can't control. We get old, let's change our face. Let's get rid of those wrinkles. There's a situation in our life that we can't control, move away from it. Change it. Let's try and take hold of it. And what this does is we keep filling this side and ignoring this side. You keep striving, we keep striving, and we keep striving, and never reaching because it's never fulfilling. Have you seen how many plastic surgeries the Kardashians have had? They haven't stopped because they're not happy, ever. Not even once. And what happens is we've lost the concept of waiting, and we've lost the beauty in the imperfection. Now, here's a scary fact that they teach you in psychology. My one lecturer actually told me about it. In the last 10 years, the rate of suicide has increased by 30%. This is based on numerous amount of things. Social media, comparison, instant gratification, and the striving for perfection. And other things, but those are the main things. And what happens is when our plans are set and they don't go according to plan, we get depressed. When we don't get that job that we wanted, that I've worked so hard for, we get depressed, we get anxious, we give up. We have a plan. We've studied for years. Why am I not going that way? I'm a failure. Oh, no, it's the government, it's the climate. Yes, okay, fine, government. But also no. What if it's not your plan? God has a stronger plan than whatever anyone here, than anything I could ever imagine. This is my favorite line. I wrote it. I'm so proud of it. I get super happy with it. But I know it's God, but He'll let me have it. Okay. So it says, it's about, let's try and see if we can match it. There we go. We can't expect to see God's love if we refuse to believe we are loved. How dare we tell other people how to solve their problems when we don't know how to solve our own? How dare we tell people, and I'm not talking down to you. I'm talking to myself. Okay, I'm the biggest hypocrite ever, and all my friends, they can tell you. Don't say that too loud. We try, and as a counselor, the first thing I thought when I became a counselor is like, I'm going to fix everyone's problems. I'm going to change so many lives. But none of my problems were solved. I was striving for my perfection. Now, there's this term, and we're going to come back to this now. There's this term called, in psychology, neuroplasticity. It's a big word, but it's the brain's ability to change and adapt its physical structures in response to an experience. In other words, Everything you hear, everything you see, everything you take in, whatever environment you're in, whatever people you keep around you, whatever you're telling to yourself, physically changes the structure in your brain. You physically, I don't know why I get the black one, I got the blue one. You physically are creating these roads. Yes, you can add a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, but this one's more developed. We physically, and when I mean physically, I'm not being theoretical. They've seen it physically change the structure of our brains by the way we think. So how do we change that? Because this is all great, but how do we apply this? Because it's one thing telling me this is how I've done my life, but how do I actually change it? Well, it sucks, but it's going to be super painful. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing is a doing word. It's a continuous word. It's one that requires time and imperfection. And what we need to do is when something comes at us, whether good or bad, we need to filter it. So how does that look? It's someone comes to me and says, you're stupid. I get that information. The first thing that it wants to go to is this path. And I want to be like, you're right. I have to physically stop those thoughts and be like, oh, I don't believe it. I believe this side. You have to physically break that foundation and put the brick that way. Build your own path. Not what path everyone else has made for you. Not what path all the negative thoughts have made for you. We need to learn to be hopeful, to be loving, not just to everyone else, but to ourselves. Those words that we say in secret or in joking manners to our friends, they create those structures. We don't see it. There are these things, these pathways in our brain. There's 86 billion of them. To give you a perspective, the Milky Way has about 200 billion stars. 200 to 400. You have a quarter of the amount of stars in the Milky Galaxy just in your brain. And this is just one pathway. You still have 85,999,000,000. You still have those many. Every little thought that you think is not valuable is valuable. Every feeling that you feel is valuable. It affects you. It affects the way we think, the way we act, the way we feel, and the way we interact with others. Because this is such a loving group. It is. This is such a growing group. And how we think really affects how we treat others and ourselves. I have a bit of a testimony about this. I'm going to have some water first because I'm really thirsty. Sorry. When I was in primary school, I used to get bullied quite badly. Not the generic bullying. Yes, the generic bullying of, are you skinny? Are you ugly? Are you weird? That all was there. But I used to get physically bullied, where kids used to throw wood chips at me. I used to come home with bruises and blood everywhere. And I used to tell my mom, no, I was just having fun, boys be boys. And it happened continuously. And the sense of worthlessness was built into my head. So much so that by the time I got into grade 8, I was thinking so hard how to commit suicide. And I planned it. I really did. The one morning I had given up, I woke up out of my bed and I had nothing else to do. I didn't know what else to do. I heard about God. I went to a Catholic school. And the only thing I could think about was just praying. But I didn't pray the generic prayer of God help me. It was, God, please take my life. I don't want to be here anymore. And what was weird was after that cry, that I sort of noticed that the bullying sort of subsided. My thinking changed. The way I thought about myself changed. The way I thought about others changed. And I think maybe it comes back, and it does. Because a couple of years ago, I hit a hard road where I lost all my friends. I made huge mistakes, and I still make mistakes today. And there's a lot of the times where I feel lost, and I feel like I don't know which road to go down. And then, even though I've taken these bricks and forcibly put them that side, the thoughts still want to creep in. So it's not like it's easy. But you know what helped? It was the people around me, it was God, and it was the environment I decided to create. And I think there's a lot of people here that are feeling incredibly lost, incredibly hurt, afraid to continue because you don't know where to go from here. Maybe there's a sense of hopelessness. Maybe you're just waiting for someone to help. I don't know what we can There's a lot of pain in life. There's a lot of hurt. And I feel like 2 weeks ago when I preached for the youth, there was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of, I'm okay. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Why? Who are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to protect? The problem is when we keep going down this road and we hold on to that control, when we strive for that perfection, we will always, and I mean this, always fall short. And there's nothing we can't do with God. So I don't know what maybe anyone is feeling here, but I feel like I need to encourage you because tonight is an equipping night. When we leave here tonight, you need to know that this, whatever you've done, whatever you've gone through, whatever you created, whatever the thoughts are, whatever you feel like your future is set on, it can all change. You determine where you want to go, but God guides you there. You can totally transform everything. You know why? Because be renewed, be transformed, be a new person. You are able to. We have the freedom to. You can be good and you can be bad. That's the freedom. You can choose which path, left or right. God's got you either way, but you can choose. I think tonight, I really want to pray for everyone here. If that's okay, can I pray? But not just a normal prayer. I think I want to ask you guys just to be a little bit vulnerable, if that's okay. Because we don't get an opportunity in our daily life to be vulnerable. And I know especially, I can't speak for women, but I know for the men, there's a lot of, I need to show up. I need to put up my chest. I need to put up this image. But there's a lot of striving for perfection. And when we mess up, we think it's the end of the world. So I'm going to pray. But whatever you're going through, I want to encourage you to speak up to somebody, because remember, it's your environment, it's your people, and it's yourself that make the world of difference to where you go now. Tonight's the night where you choose what you want to do. You can keep watching porn. You can keep cheating. You can keep lying. You can keep pretending. You can keep on the same path you're going. But you're going to get nowhere very fast. God, I just want to thank you for the fact that everyone here tonight, whether for the message, for the worship, for what David said about giving, was here for a purpose. That every person here that you've put in their in this place here, their lives are filled with hope. God, you've got a plan for every single one of these people here. You've got a huge plan for every single one of us here. We have the opportunity now, Lord, to just give you our lives. Physically choose to change where we are. So God, we just take a moment just to think about the things that are hurting us. Think about the things that are worrying us, that are scaring us. For those of us that feel alone, even amongst the crowd. For those of us who are longing for answers, may you just speak tonight. I think now's an important time to be vulnerable. I think we have leaders here who are wanting to pray, wanting to help. I'm going to be brave and say even those that are feeling okay, if we see those that are struggling, to pray for them. I'm going to ask us to keep our eyes closed. But if you're needing prayer, and please, don't think anything's too small, and don't think anything's too big. If you're needing prayer, can you lift up your hand? Whether you feel alone, depressed, anxious, stressed, worried, hopeless, unworthy, unlovable, put up your hand. And it's not a space of judgment. It's not a space where someone's going to look to you afterwards and be like, I can't believe you put your hand up. No one cares. We want to help. So please put your hand up. I think there's a few people that are going to come around and pray for you. And tonight is the night where we equip the saints. Where you can deal with your brokenness. I'm going to be a bit brave here. If we can have some people here up in front to pray for anyone who wants to come up for prayer. I think also let's do that, if that's okay. So if you want to come up for prayer as well, because you want to sit there, you want to come up, and you want to get done with what's been done, come up this evening.